but they do. And so you want them to go out and do it. So your job, Bill, in Juneau is to do as much as you can for your district. And I know that you do a lot more than just the people in your district. I think that you work incredibly hard trying to secure funds and making sure we're not all raped, pillaged, and plundered by the oil companies. But when you're going down there and you're like, we need funds for this, and you and the other Anchorage representatives, you're already considered Anchorage-centric. You know, that Anchorage works as a block and gets all this money. Well, this is where the people live. Go figure. But how hard is it for you to go down when you're seeing this mismanagement of funds here?
Well, we'll see how that factors in. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you're right, though. There is sort of a feeling out there from people who aren't from Anchorage. They're sort of Anchorage against the rest of the state. And of course, it's really not like that. We try to be balanced throughout the state in our decisions. But I do know on the federal level, we always hear this argument that when the state turns down money, like when the state turned down the stimulus funds last year, Governor Palin, we heard from the congressional delegation that was really going to hurt their efforts to get funding for the state of Alaska. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know how it'll play out, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Well, I know you guys, I know you work really hard to bring that back. There's fire stations in your district that have been underfunded. There's things that you need. There's schools that have, drip buckets right now. And it seems to me that certainly with the federal monies, that was so obvious. It was like weatherization, smotherization. And you were telling me, I want to talk to you real quick about the state thing. What happened with that money? Because I was at the Egan Center the day that the veto override was there, and I was counting out my votes, and I was, happy how it went. And I was seeing Sarah Palin's brother walk around and sort of bristling up to people, and intimidation factor because she was already gone, of course. And there were people outside that were holding signs that said, Sarah Palin was right. This is after she quit. Sarah Palin was right. We don't need no federal money. We don't need the feds to boss us around. And all these, Sarah Palin was right. And I was like, so was she right 97% of the time or 3% of the time? Because she only turned down like 3% of the money. And trying to get them to understand, look, we got this money and we need it. So the 3% of the money you got back through, you with your one vote and a lot of other people's votes. What happened to that money for weatherization?
Well, let me just say, the federal government makes up a third of the state spending. I mean, it's a huge portion. If we stop taking federal money, there will be a huge collapse. A lot of people will lose jobs in Alaska, and will really suffer. Alaska, interestingly, was the #1 state per capita in terms of stimulus funding. The amount of money that we got per capita was more than any other state.
Socialism!
and
Sarah was right.
And it's estimated that it's created over 5,000 jobs here in Alaska. And the money that was vetoed by the governor was a tiny, tiny percent of the overall package. But we actually are putting up that into our energy omnibus bill that we're trying to get through the legislature. And we want to take $18 million of that. There was $28.6 million vetoed. We want to take $18 million of that. And according to Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, we can actually leverage that because they have great bond ratings. We can leverage that into $250 million worth of bonds. And our plan is that we can use that money to create a revolving loan fund for every school in the state, every government building in the state, to apply to get money to weatherize and retrofit every school and every government building in the state on a revolving loan basis. And
how do they pay that back?
They through the savings, through the money that they save. When you do one of these projects, the savings can often be 30–40%. And so if you're spending $100,000 a year, you can save 40%, $40,000 a year. And so the money you're saving, instead of paying it to energy costs, you simply repay back to the loan program.
So even if it was 20%, you could repay that loan in 5 years.
You can pay back.
Even being conservative.
All right, and the payback will be typically 5 or 6 years, or sometimes it's 2 years in some of the villages with extremely high costs.
Right.
And we estimate that this will create, just based on the weatherization program money that we've already done, this will create probably about 2,000 jobs in Alaska, local jobs.
Which sounds like it's going to be stimulating. I mean, And that's being really smart with the money. I mean, that's being really, really clever. Like, how do you, it's like the Jesus 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Okay, we're going to take 18 million and we're going to turn it into 250 million and we're going to have warmer kids and lower costs. It's like sort of a miracle.
Right.
I like it.
It's, you know, it's a benefit. It's a win-win-win situation, I think.
So I'm really happy about all those override the veto votes.
It was, you know, we passed it. We just had the exact number of votes. If we had lost one more person, we wouldn't have got that money. So, yeah, it worked out well, I think.
And we got, you know, some press out of the deal.
See, that's what, when government works right, it takes a lot of work, and it takes people like Harriett and Bill to do it and to think it through and not quit halfway through, and find a good solution like that. It's often not bumper sticker or splashy sexy. It's staying up late and figuring it out, and making the bureaucracies work right, or finding a new approach to it. It's a frustration of mine that everything has to be summarized in, if you've got 15 seconds, that's a long time.
And drill, baby, drill.
Well, right.
Right.
When really, this stuff is about some good ideas and a lot of hard work and making it work.
Well, I think that's sort of the misconception of government, that there's going to be these sort of flashy bumper stickers, or you're going to have this Mr. Smith goes to Washington moment on the floor all the time, when really, I know you guys well enough to know that you put in those hours, and you're, you know, having things researched, and you're reading letters, and you're calling constituents, and it's one person, and you're listening to their grievances, when you could be doing, you know, a million other things. And that's, you know, what really the job entails. And I think you're right. It's not as sexy, and it's not, you know, as easy as people think it is. I think George Bush said something about hard work. And it is, it's just that. So do you have any interest in going into politics?
It's my personal goal to make politics unsexy. I've been doing it all my life. I'm not sure whether to be insulted by that or not. You do that so well. You make it boring, Eric.
You were actually the sexy candidate. I'm sorry.
Well, just because of the field.
It's just because your hair moves on occasion. Sorry. So it is. You're not answering me, and I'm interrupting you and answering me. So will you go?
I thought I'd brush past that question in a humorous way. I thought that was chapter 3.
What district do we have to move to vote for you? No, I think you guys all do amazing work. We're going to be coming back in just a couple minutes with audience questions, and you're welcome to come down and ask your own any Thursday night at 5:30 here at Bernie's Bungalow upstairs. We'll be right back. Oh, God. I should record this for my alarm in the morning. Wake up, Shannyn. Oh, no. I'm so glad you're here. This is one of my favorite parts of the segment because we take your questions for our panel. And initially it was Ask the Girl from Homer, but I needed a lifeline every week. So, you know, now we just ask you.
And you wouldn't give it to us. You wouldn't.
That's right. Break. You were one of the first people on the show. That's
Give
right.
us hints. None of that.
Oh, I forgot.
This will be totally cold.
You got this. Okay. So then you get the first question. Giddy up. You got a seatbelt on that chair? As one of the 20% who did vote in the last municipal election for you, Eric, your 3 Democratic candidates gave the election to Dan Sullivan because you couldn't unselfishly just figure out which one of you to put on the ballot.
You have to do it like Jeopardy in the form of a question, but let's take that to mean
this is supposed to be a question, not a shame on you.
No, I agree, and we did a lot of talking about, hey, we ought to have a process, and I agreed to a process where we take some polls and figure out who'd sort of put a better organization together, raise the most money, you know, whatever factors you want to show the strength of a campaign, and by all those measures, I was clearly ahead, and it's hard to get out, though. You know, it's hard once you've done that. But I agree with the premise of the question. It made it really difficult then.
I agree with it, too.
Okay.
And there's another election coming up, and one of those people isn't on the ballot, and one of them is. And people have a choice. Okay. You get another one. Eric.
What did I do?
Well, you're trying to bring sexy back to candidacy. If you were mayor, would you have had your office draft a resolution so that the former Mayor Sullivan's trust could have been paid?
You know, we're just learning about this. I wouldn't have paid that. I don't think we can be in the business of insurance. And I think what happens when you do that and you collect money and you realize you can't legally do what you intended to do, is you give the money back. So I think what you should have done is say, those premiums, we can't operate as an insurance company. Here is your $20,000 of premiums back.
Well, that's what Aetna's attorney said to do.
Yeah, that's
But-
I think the only
but,
thing
you
you
know.
can do when you're asked to do an illegal thing.
Harriet, are we going to